Hello and welcome to episode 17, 2022. This is the Alice Chin podcast, and we are starting with 2022, Alice.
That's right. Yeah. How are you today, Bill?
I'm doing great,
So 2022 was the height of the market. We continue to open up after the pandemic. I don't know if you remember. Rates were increasing at this point from like the 2s and 3s up to like 6.5 actually by the end of 2022. Yes. Yeah, I know. It seems like a long time ago, but yeah. Buyers were frantic to purchase before rates like shot up. Yeah. And then it was just a lot of competition, frenzy, as we like to call it. Multiple offers were typical. I mean, you saw it almost every single listing. Sellers held all the cards. And we're going to talk about some stories that I have where buyers of mine clearly didn't understand that and tried to fight against the grain of, it being a seller's market. They thought that they had some power, which they didn't.
Yeah.
And then in Naperville, the days on market went from 87 in July of 2020, so that was right after COVID, down to 28 days by July 2022. So that is massive decrease in the days on market. Months supplied dropped from 4 months in February of 2020 to down to 1 month, just under 1 month by February 2022. Wow. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Major shift.
And it's remained that way ever since. On average, like 1 to 1.5 months of inventory. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yep. So it was a hard year. So let's start with actually the news or the first that happened that year. So I got, it's not a license, but I got certified to do business brokerage. So I actually did my first business brokerage deal that year.
Okay.
And what that is it's actually doing valuation on actual business. And it can be with or without real estate, looking at their financials, creating a valuation. You can list the business for sale as well. Okay. With or without real estate.
Okay.
And then brokering that sale of the actual business. Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So more of a business to business, not retail.
Correct. Yeah. And it was basically in the beginning, like drinking out of a fire hose. It was a lot of new information, very different from real estate, very different from residential real estate or even commercial. And really no emotions into it. But very practical, like if somebody wanted to take a look at the business financials, that's usually what they ask for first.
Yeah.
They have to sign an NDA, of course.
Right.
And then we send over the financials after we've what's called recast them. So we take the financials in their books and then we recast them based upon what the owner is paid, right? What they pay themselves. And we add back a couple of other items on their financials as well.
Cool.
And then it determines, so depending on the line of business, what industry they're in, right? There's a multiplier that you use on average to then evaluate. So like, let's say their, net income is $250,000. In certain businesses, you would use like a multiplier of 3. And then that would be the ultimate value of the business. So it'd be $600,000, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm trying to think when it has real estate, of course, commercial real estate component. Obviously, it was really helpful to have. I have a team member who is an appraiser, and he's been appraising commercial and residential properties for like 35, 40 years.
Okay.
So that helps, right? Because then we could list it separate or we can combine it. Trying to think what other things.
What made you get into that?
Yeah, so it's a funny story, actually.
Okay.
So I went to I saw a panel of business brokers, okay, it was at Main Street. And this was probably back in late 2021. And I thought it was specifically for like real estate brokers, like if they wanted to know how to value their own business. I was totally wrong. Okay. So I show up thinking that it was one
one thing and it wound up being another.
And I sit in the very back because I'm like, I know nothing. Okay. I don't want to be the idiot, like sitting in the front, like looking clueless.
Yeah.
And so then I very quickly figured out that like that was not what this panel was about. Right. However, it did pique my interest because it was like, well, I should always have, it just adds to my kind of basket of skill sets. Right.
Yeah. Plus,
And
it goes off of your financial background, right? So
exactly,
there you go.
exactly. To me, it seemed like a very easy segue, especially since I do have commercial real estate background, finance background, etc. And then at the beginning of my career, one of my mentors, Vic Nickel, he did a lot of what I call these special projects. So he did a lot of like developing with builders, commercial real estate, commercial leasing, right? So he had me tag along, which was super helpful. I didn't know what I was doing,
Yeah.
but I learned a lot.
Right.
And then after that panel, I thought, you know what? I really want to get into it, but I don't know how. And I don't want to do. So rule number one, they always say, is don't go outside of your area of expertise, right? Like when you have a real estate license.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, I can't do this by myself, even though I have a good background, right? And so then I reached out to actually one of the panelists. And he was kind enough. I still don't know to this day why he agreed to do this. But he was just a super nice guy. I said, could I partner with you, right? Like if I have leads or whatnot, like, could I partner with you so that I could learn? And he said, yes. And we would split everything 50-50. I mean, he was just super fair. Okay.
That's great.
Yep. So then, we did probably about 3 deals. And then he has since, not retired. He has since moved closer to be with his grandkids. I think, it's been almost 4 years. So I've learned a lot. I renewed my, certification again this last year.
Okay.
So yeah,
Wow.
I'm able and more than capable to help.
That's
clients.
great.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never knew that about you.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. Yeah, you learned something new. Yeah. So, and then we sold a commercial property. It was an office. That was another kind of not very first commercial, but one of the first that we did. And we learned a lot through that as well because it wasn't in Naperville. It was in Brookfield.
I was just going to ask, was it in Naperville? So
it wasn't, no. So again, we had to learn kind of the nuances of the Brookfield area. And luckily it was just a simple office property. There wasn't like anything else. It wasn't industrial. It wasn't, anything else.
Property?
Not really.
Really?
No. It was like a corner brick office, on a fairly major road. And the owners had used it as an accounting firm.
Oh, okay.
For a very, very long time. And they just didn't need any more. The accountants retired, and they didn't want to keep the property. So
how is that different from residential?
It's very different because, in some ways it's the same. So in some ways it's the same because you need to know the ages of the mechanicals, like the roof,
right?
Furnace, AC, things like that. But the roof in itself is a different type of roof. Usually commercial buildings, they have a flat roof or a membrane. It's also different because it depends on what kind of buyer you're looking for. If you're looking for a buyer who's just purely buying it for an investment and then they're going to release it out, right?
Yeah.
Then you want to know kind of how much they could lease it out for, right?
Right.
And then you get into like leases, you get into, is it a triple net? Is it a gross lease, right? What's included, etc. So, as far as the other aspects that are different, parking was an issue, and then the village was different. They had different regulations as to like, and then even where like the lot line is, right? What property do you own versus like is a sidewalk that belong to the village? Who takes care of maintenance, right? Snow shoveling, things like that. Yeah.
And one of the things you mentioned in the last episode was basically the city has different zonings for the actual type of business are in the units.
They do. Yeah. So we had to figure that out too.
Okay.
Like what kind of business could operate, and it was a single story office building.
Yeah.
But I think that was one of the things, one of the potential buyers, and ultimately I think the buyer that bought it, they wanted to operate a tattoo parlor.
Okay.
And so we had to figure out if that was going to be allowed, because the last thing we want is somebody to buy the property and then be like, well, we can't run our business out of this property. Right. And so there was some sort of, I think they had to apply for a exception or something like that. And so there was more involved, it wasn't just like a house, you buy it, you make an offer and it's more, there aren't as many there's not as much red tape or hoops to jump through. Yeah.
Is it easy to change zoning like on certain properties?
It depends on what it is. In this case, it wasn't like super easy, but it wasn't like super difficult. It was just we had to like go in front of the city hall. We had to then make a petition to get an exception. And then, they had questions, of course, like, okay, what's the traffic flow going to look like, right? How many clients do you typically have, right? There were a lot of questions about that business. Yeah. Because that's very different than obviously an accounting business. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it is very different. Huh.
Yeah. And I think they also had to talk to like the neighbor, the owners of the neighboring buildings, and then make sure that parking was adequate.
Yeah.
Because it was a very small building and I think there was only 3 or 4 parking spaces, like, in the little parking lot. And then in the back, which is where the owners typically parked, there was enough space for maybe 1 or 2 cars. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then as far as closing time, does it, normally it's about 30 to 40.
Yeah, it was longer. It was definitely longer. I want to say off the top of my head, it was probably 60 days, maybe 60 to 90 days.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they had to that was the other thing that's different. They performed their due diligence. So it's similar to residential, but they get a longer time period,
Okay.
And then there are other tests that they might want to do in addition to like residential, inspections. Yeah.
Cool.
Things like that. Yeah. So, this year, 2022 was a hard year. My dear teammate, Britta, she left, and I still miss her to this day dearly. So she was with me for 7 years, and she was an amazing agent. And at the end of the day, what happened was, and she told me, that this year in particular was very hard for all of us, myself included. And you'll see why in a minute, once we talk about all the times that I got yelled at. But in her particular, because it was year 2 or 3 of a seller's market, buyers had no control whatsoever.
Yeah.
And she was pretty much exclusively a buyer's agent.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the beating that you get, like, over and over again, because you submit offer after offer after offer and you don't get a house for your clients. And then guess who the clients blame?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not going to blame themselves. Yeah.
Right.
And so it just, and I don't blame her, it got to the point where it was just like, we kept getting fired, because buyers were blaming us for not finding a house or getting a house. And then I think it was like the 3rd or 4th situation in which not only did we get fired, right, but she basically got yelled at, and verbally accosted. And she was just like, Alice, I'm done, like I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was really sad. One of my admins, she took a sabbatical. So she left that spring. And she's now back, but she took a year. We did hire another admin that in her position, but that admin only stayed with us for a year. That admin, she was very kind and nice and was wonderful. But I think the business isn't for everybody, and she essentially felt that everything that we do is bullshit. And let me kind of explain. So she's just basically, she got really jaded that like, okay, real estate it's just all about making money. It's just all about making lots of money. And, I think she lost sight of like the true meaning of what we really do and support people through a very emotional time. Right. And so I think that she just got jaded and the business wasn't for her, which is fine, And then we hired 2 new agents that year. One earlier in the year that did not work out. He had a child with special needs, and he really did need that steady stream of income. So as an agent, I mean, you can, it's not a steady stream of income. It's commission based, right?
Right.
And so it didn't work even though he had good intentions, he was a great guy. It just didn't work out. The second agent that we hired, she's brand new. Okay. I think she was a leasing agent previously, and she started in the fall with us. And she had really, really good luck. And I say luck, not in a mean way, just she had really good luck in the beginning. She got a lot of deals closed, things kind of just fell into place. And then after about 6 months, then the well dried up. Okay. And it became apparent that when one doesn't do the activities, like make calls, lead generate, prospect, right? Like the luck can only get you so far.
Right.
And then once that happened, it kind of dried up, and, it just, it takes a lot of work, as you know, to make it in this business. And I should have known. I mean, one of the lessons that I think I learned from that time period is, remember how, Bill, in the beginning, in one of the other episodes, we talked about hire slow and fire fast, right? Okay. Right. So I should have, one of the things that is kind of a detriment to myself is I tend to hang on to things for too long. Like I try to force them to work out, right? And it's not good for anybody. So truth be told, I probably should have parted ways with that agent several months, probably at least 6 months before I actually did.
Wow.
Yeah. Because it was very telling. We were working on a buyer together. I'll tell you a quick story. We were working on a buyer together, and she showed the buyer a house earlier that day. And the buyer then asked for comparables, which is normal, know?
Yeah.
So I was not in front of a computer. I was actually in a theater, getting ready to watch my daughter perform, not a movie theater, like a acting theater. And she was going to do her performance. And so I only had my phone, right? And so I asked her if she could, because I figured she was at home. Okay. And her response to me was, "Oh, I'm just sitting down for dinner. I'll do it after dinner." And I thought, no, I don't think you understand. The client is wanting comparables so that they can make an offer. And highest and best is due.
Sense of urgency.
This is not, exactly. And so guess what I did?
I don't, what did you do? I hope you stayed in the auditorium.
I did.
Okay, good.
But I pulled comparables on my little itty bitty phone.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know how hard that is to do? Because I have to draw a rubber band by hand, on the map. I have to it's a whole thing. Okay. Jeez. And my eyesight is not getting any better with age. Right, okay. Right, so I'm zooming in on my phone. Right. Okay. So I've pulled the comparables, right? And I send it to them, and I was not happy, obviously. Okay. I was pissed. Okay.
Right.
And in a dark theater, mind you, okay, before the performance starts. So the pressure was on too.
Right.
I have to do it before.
Okay, good. So I'm picturing you doing this while the...
No.
Okay, all right.
So I had some time. Okay, so I got it done. Then the client wants to make an offer. This is literally within the same hour, okay?
Oh my God.
And so I'm like, can you please draft the offer? No, I'm still eating dinner.
What are you eating? 6-course Italian... I just got my sorbet.
So, again, Alice, okay, to the rescue. I draft the offer on my phone, and I tag it, for signatures, in documents, tag it on my phone. Do you know how hard that is to do?
Yeah.
So I did it, and then I presented the offer on my phone, there's a whole method and procedure that my team does to present offers, okay?
Right.
Did the whole thing, and I said to the agent, I usually like to call. I cannot call you right now. I'm in the middle of the theater, okay? And I didn't say to her, it's because the agent on my team refuses to do her job.
She's eating. She's still grazing.
It just was it was the strangest thing.
So how was the conversation after that with the agent?
It was basically just I don't think we're on the same page. There's a sense of urgency. You showed the house. time is of the essence. Like
Yeah.
after that, if they show interest, like especially in this market when it's not a buyer market, and there's a deadline looming, right? Like you can't just be like, well, that's not the way this business works. It's
No.
not a 9 to 5,
It's a controlling business where they control your time. I've
Unfortunately.
had it so many times like that.
Yeah.
And it plagues us as parents too, which is hard. But like I'm listening to you going, oh my gosh, I can completely relate.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
the other thing too is that buyers don't have respect for your time.
They don't.
I think it's gotten worse.
These buyers were actually very, very good.
Yeah.
They didn't give me any attitude or sass or anything like that. But the thing is, they shouldn't have to be able to tell a difference, and they didn't. They couldn't tell a difference. I did everything on the fly,
Yeah.
But it's not, especially in this market where they don't have the upper hand. I
Right.
feel like
You
we
have to
owe
be
it to them.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
really do. And so for an agent on my team at the time to just be like, no, I'm still eating my dinner. Like,
It's in wrong business.
it just was. I knew I should have parted ways around that
Yeah.
time, but instead I let it carry on for another 7 months, Bill. So again, learn from my mistakes. Don't do that.
That happened to me too with a hire, and we were at an event for real estate agents, and we were gonna do a drawing.
Uh-huh.
And he said, I can't stay. I go, why can't you stay?
Why?
I have an intramural basketball game I have to be at. I'm like,
Priorities here.
okay, wait a second. You're an adult now. Like,
Yeah.
let's talk about adulty.
Let's talk about responsibilities.
Oh my gosh, it was like, I
Crazy.
can't believe this. And I go, it's only gonna be like 5 minutes. Can you at least
Like priorities here.
Yeah, you got to make money. He wasn't making money. Same thing.
He wasn't making money.
Yeah, I kept him on a little bit too long as well too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just one of those things.
It's just one of those things, yeah. So those are kind of just some examples of where I kind of had major learning lessons and hiring and things like that.
Let's talk about the yelling.
Oh yeah, there's lots
Sorry,
of yelling.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No, there's lots
you
of
hooked me with the yelling part. I'm like, okay,
Oh,
what happened?
There's lots of yelling. Yeah. So let's start with the first one. So I probably got yelled at like 6 times this year. Like
Okay.
by different clients. Okay. So the first time was at the beginning of the year. I got yelled at by a seller. So I had a listing. I got yelled at by a seller because we were under contract. Okay. And the buyer wanted to do their inspection. Okay. It's very normal up to this point. Okay. Sellers had a massive dog. I mean, I'm talking like the size of a horse. I'm not exaggerating. Okay. And I was scared of the dog. Okay. And I'm a dog person.
Yeah.
Okay. And the buyers and buyer agent, okay, they saw the dog like leaving when they were doing the showing. And so they specifically asked before they scheduled their inspection, can you please make sure the dog is not there?
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, dog lovers are like, oh.
I know. But it's a massive dog. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
You have to
Yeah, he's
understand.
huge.
Okay. He's
Horse
huge.
dog.
Horse dog. Yes. And so, they tried to schedule their inspection, and there was this like whole back and forth of like, okay, they want to do the inspection this day at this time. Can you please get your dog out? No, I have to work. I cannot get the dog. And my wife cannot get the dog either. And our grown kids cannot get the dog. I mean, they had grown kids, okay?
Okay.
Like adult kids, okay?
Yeah.
And they can't be bothered either. Okay. Can we please make sure the dog is gone? Like what can we do to help, right? We even offered. I said, I'm afraid of the dog, but I'll go over there. I'll go over there and retrieve the dog so that, they weren't comfortable with that. I wonder why,
Yeah.
And so then this went back and forth for like,
So you were able to get the horse dog out of the house?
no, this went back and forth. Like this
Okay.
whole conversation of like, are you going to get the dog out? No, I cannot get the dog out. Okay, how about I get the dog, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And so back and forth we went, right? And all the while, the buyer's still waiting to get their inspection confirmed, okay? So they're being stubborn. They're refusing to remove the dog. The buyer cancels. Because
Yeah.
we can't even remove the dog for the inspection. Like what?
Oh my gosh.
So then he yells at me, blames me. And if it was such a big deal, you should have told me it was a big deal, Alice, and that, it would lead to them canceling and we need to sell this house and I have a lot of pressure. Oh, I got like screamed at. I'm talking not just like a stern,
Yeah.
it was full on. I still remember it was on a Saturday morning, full on, just screaming in my face on the phone.
Gosh.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So
it always happens during those times when you're trying to get a little rest or something, Like I feel like that happens.
It wasn't even that. I was at the office.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to hustle to get a market analysis done
So
for next class. I was working. Okay, so it totally threw me off my game, because who expects to get yelled at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning, right? Okay. Right. So then that day in and of itself didn't start off well, obviously, right? And I remember we were still we were leasing the building next to our building. And for whatever reason, my kind landlord, Rick is his name, okay? I don't think he noticed that I was upset and in tears, okay? And he noticed that I was in the office by myself, and he was just checking in on me, And so I don't know if he knocked and then opened the door to my office at the time. And I think he was trying to, I don't know, say something funny. And then I just burst into tears. And he was
wow.
It was so awkward for him, I'm sure. Yeah. He's this older, kind gentleman.
Yeah, right.
It's oh, I am sorry. Bad time. And he just listen.
So he scooted. Oh my gosh. Whoops. All right.
So I burst into tears. So then that day it didn't get any better. Okay. So let me tell you. So that day I got yelled at for a second time. Okay. So then I collect myself, wipe off my tears. And I'm like, okay, Els, you can do this. One person yelled at you. It is fine. You'll get the house. It's still a seller's market. You'll get it under contract. Everything will be just gravy. Okay. Don't worry about it. So I go to my next appointment, right? And I remember this appointment. It was with a older lady. Her home was, how do I describe this? It was definitely a granny special. Okay. There were lace doily curtains everywhere. All the tables were covered with lace. Okay. She had porcelain sculptures, and everything was in tones of mauve and seafoam green and
wow.
Yep.
Beautiful.
She had no backyard.
Okay.
Again, not exaggerate, literally no backyard. Okay. And I sat down, we talked over the market analysis, and I said, I think that you should price it between this price and this price, right? And she immediately was like, I'm offended, okay? And she goes,
all in one day.
Yeah, I'm offended, and you should be ashamed of yourself for telling me this price. My house is worth more than that. And, I've interviewed 2 other agents, and they gave me higher prices. And okay, so I get yelled at. Okay, so the last thing, the kicker of it all, is she says, I'm definitely not going with you. I think you are a terrible agent. I hope you learned a lesson today. Literally, this is what she says to my face. We're sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, all right, I think I'm done. So I left. Yeah.
How do you respond? When that happens, when somebody's being that malicious and rude to you, how do you respond to that?
I basically just said, well, I'm afraid we're going to have to agree to disagree. And I said,
you just moved on.
Yeah, I just moved on. And so yeah, I literally, to this day, I still remember those exact words. Okay, I hope you learned a lesson, Alice. Because, and I got the last laugh, honestly, because she was on the market. I think she went through 3 agents, and she was on the market for a year, on and off, for over a year.
Yeah.
Because she didn't listen. You know what I mean?
Right.
She wasn't.
And you've earned the respect after so many years of having
her mindset was not. Yeah. And that she talked to me as if I was a child, number one. And number 2, she talked to me as if I had no idea what I was doing, which is okay. And then I thought I lost my mind that day. So I asked Jim on my team, who's an appraiser, I said, can you just verify that I haven't lost all my marbles? If you had seen this house, where would you have priced it? Right. Just do a double check. Right. Yeah. And he validated me. He did his homework. He looked at everything that same day. And he was like, no, Alice, that's what I would have said. And he's like, I probably would have got yelled at too then. And I said, yeah, you would have, because
she's very yelly.
Yep. So
Wow.
then, yes. So then so that was 2 times in one day. The third time I got yelled at,
Not the same day.
no.
Okay,
The third time that I got yelled at was a little bit later in the year. And it was it was 2 transactions. So we sold their home in Naperville, and then I went outside of my area of expertise, and we sold a home like about an hour away, like an hour south. No, actually, probably further. It was probably like 2 hours south. And I only did it because it was the one house that they wanted to see only. And the listing was still in the MLS. And, the listing agent was very kind. Okay. So I thought, okay, I can do this. So we did both transactions, and they seemed fine. Okay. Up until right around closing, right after closing. Okay. So everything was fine. Everything went pretty smooth. I took care of everything. I drove down there, showed it to them, then was there for the inspection, all that stuff. Okay. After the closing, both closings, okay, they started rapid firing at me all these questions and complaints. Like, we're still getting mail from the last owners. Now the ice machine broke and it's all your fault. The roof is leaking now. It's all your fault. The seller left the house. What were their words? The seller left the house in disgusting filth.
Oh,
But it's your fault.
yeah.
Okay, they didn't clean it. And I was like, but we had a final walkthrough. Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand. Like, did you not see during the final walkthrough?
Yeah.
And it just was constant. Like, who do we call to set up our utilities? It was like, okay, you can't figure stuff out at all? Like, and it got to a point where it was like every day, every other day, And it finally was just like, you need to take you are the homeowner now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to help you, And it was just the oddest thing. And my only thought process is that, my only guess is that I think we make our job, my team and I, we make our job look easy, but it's not easy. You know how some people describe it as like forward facing to the public, we make it look very easy, but in the back, it's like a hot mess. And there's like things flying everywhere. Yeah. So I think, and this happens a lot, I think these clients felt that we made too much money because we made it look easy, right? Like we kept our poise and our professionalism, and everything on the outside just went smooth. Whereas in the background, I mean, sometimes, we have to scramble, or we have to like make sure that all the little details and everything are kept into place.
Right.
And so I truly feel like that was the classic case of they felt we got paid too much.
Yeah.
And then they started turning on us after the closing.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I've also seen it where clients, and I think with a lack of inventory too, that clients tend to settle. And I've seen that numerous times where they come back and go, what did I do?
What did I do? Yeah.
Like they've been pressured. The market pressures them into buying. It's not you. It's the market pressures them into buying a house, and they didn't do their due diligence and like not settle.
Correct.
You have to have patience in this market when there's a multiple offer situation or lack of inventory.
Correct.
And I think a lot of people do the same thing.
They feel pressure, and then they're never going to blame themselves, right?
Of course.
They're never
Always transference.
not even blame themselves, but take responsibility, at least in part, right? Because there's more than one person in the situation. They always look to the easiest target, which unfortunately is the real estate agent.
Right.
Right. And then I'm trying to think what else. I got yelled at 2 more times that year. So what is that now? 5 times, right?
5.
Yep. There was one where it was just luck and timing. I took a listing and it got shown a bunch of times. Okay. And I was there for the showings because it was a luxury listing. And it was just luck and timing because we only got an offer originally that was a home sale contingent offer with a home sale contingency. And he didn't like it. Okay. The owner didn't like it. And I said, well, we could just reject it then, or, I mean, this is the only offer we have. So do you want to work with it? Okay. And to be honest, he was just a Krabby Patty. Like he was just a Krabby Pants, and didn't want to like figure out didn't want to work together. There's some clients that just are adversarial. Do you know what I mean? And then other clients that are like, okay, we're in this together. Let's like try to get to the finish line, right? And so he insisted on getting a free rent back. He insisted, like he made all these demands. And then he refused to sign the contract for like 3 days. And then during the time that he refused to sign the contract, the buyer changed their mind and said, forget it, you know?
Yeah.
So then he got so ornery with me that he wanted to fire me because, you know, he didn't think I was doing my job. Okay. So I let him out. Okay. And unfortunately, timing and luck, as luck would have it, he got under contract probably a few weeks after. Yeah. With a cash offer. Yeah.
Oh, God.
And so the second agent, you know, got lucky.
Yeah.
It was a stroke of luck and timing. So unfortunately, what I learned in that instance, the hard way, is that not all clients are a good fit. And you shouldn't like force it, if that makes sense, because the amount of stress, because, you know, when he yelled at me about like the offer and how crappy it was, etc., I was in Hawaii. You know, so he ruined my family vacation because it was like every time he needed to talk to me. Do you know what I mean? I had to step away from my family.
You see, I have a client like that right now. Like on the way here, I see their name like, oh, gosh.
I know. You just get this like pit in your stomach.
Yeah. I'm like, I should have fired these people from the get-go.
Yeah.
Right.
You should have just said, this is not a good fit.
It's okay. I think people that are here in that inner industry right now, it's okay to fire people.
It really is.
It's not to say that you're going to be mean and malicious about it, but it's going to waste your time, and you're not going to succeed in this business.
It's like bad energy. You're putting bad energy in, you know, when it should be like good energy. You know, go after something else that'll be positive. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So again, that was it just made me very negative, you know, during that time period, and I was just like grouchy pants, you know. So. And then the last time that I got yelled at, this one is very interesting, actually. So it was a buyer that was the son of a past client. Okay. So my past clients, I have to tell you the story of my past clients because they purchased, I think, in 2016 when it was a buyer market. Yeah. Okay. So in 2022, it was a seller's market. Totally different. Okay. They referred to me their son. Britta had been working with them, okay? And, of course, she left, right? Okay. So then I took over, which is fine, okay? So, again, it was not in my usual area. It was further west. So they were looking more in, like, St. Charles, Geneva, that area. Totally fine as well. I know that area. So we were looking at, you know, we would only look at, like, 1 or 2 homes. There was never, like, we're going to go on a tour because there was no inventory. Okay. So the whole thing started because they wanted to make an offer on a house, and they wanted to make an offer at 90% of the list price. Super low.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had to convince them, like, I don't think that's a good idea. You know, you're going to offend the seller, especially in this market, you know. So then I convinced them to come up, I think it was like 94%, which is still low. Okay. But not as offensive. Okay. Yeah. So they came up, and then it became a highest and best situation, okay? And they said they didn't like it. So they threw a fit, okay? And they said, we demand a response from the seller by tomorrow. Or we're withdrawing our offer. And it's like, you don't have control. Like, that's not how this works,
it's a different
right?
market, yeah.
That's really not how this works. And so then that house obviously didn't work out. The next house is where like the explosions and fireworks came. Okay. So they wanted to do the same thing. They wanted to go in at 90%. I convinced them, bad idea. Okay. We'll go in at a little bit higher, like 92, 93%. Okay. Then the seller wouldn't counter. Okay. Because it was too low. And they were like, you know, we're not going to counter. And he was just like, fine. Okay. We'll come up to this price. But that's the most that we'll come up to because we expect a $20,000 credit after inspections anyways. It's like, what are you talking about? Where are you even coming up with this stuff from? You watching too much HGTV?
Yeah, right. In the wrong year.
The wrong year, yeah, exactly. Right. The wrong year. So then, this is the most ridiculous part about this story. So the seller was just like, no, we can't take that. But we would consider something close to it in price, but you'd have to take it as is. Okay. I mean, that seems fair-ish, you know? The buyer, my client, said, no, we don't think that's fair at all. If we would take it as is, we'd reduce it by $20,000. So they went backwards. Like, you know, in negotiations, you're
supposed to come
together. Not the other way.
A little give
right?
and take. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he went backwards, Bill, by $25,000. And he insisted that I present, which I did. I know my fiduciary duty. I presented it, you know, even though it made me look like an idiot, right? And they didn't take it. Obviously, they didn't take it, you know?
What did the listing agent say when you did that?
She laughed because she knew. She knew. She was seasoned. She knew.
Yeah.
She could read between the lines.
Yeah, right.
You know, she knows it wasn't me. And so then after that, they yelled at me and then they fired me because they didn't feel like I was representing. They didn't feel like I provided them the level of advocacy that they required. Those were their exact words.
Wow. That sounds like a chat GPT. You know?
Talk about that too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it was before ChatGPT. That's a weird thing. Yeah. And I was kind of like, what are you talking? Level of advocacy? Okay. How do you suppose I advocate for somebody who's going backwards? Like, does that make any sense to you whatsoever?
No, it's,
like, you have to have something that makes sense and that is logical to be advocated for, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
there's nothing there.
It was weird. And then it got even worse. I know. How could it get worse, right? Because then I tried to take the high road always, okay? I'm not perfect, but I try to take the high road. So in that instance, I wrote an email to the parents because they're my past clients. And it wasn't slinging mud. It wasn't like, you know, throwing dirt. I just said, I just think that we're not a good fit. I appreciate that you referred them to me, but you know, your son and we've decided to mutually part ways. Okay. And I expected her to at least be neutral. That's a tall order.
Yeah.
Okay. I've realized for some parents.
Right.
No, she defended him and was basically like, you know, he's all that in a bag of chips and, you know, he makes a lot of money and he can buy whatever he wants and just watch, he'll buy 3 properties. Oh, it was the most insane response.
Well, clearly they showed entitlement for this kid that.
Oh, yeah.
That you can see that's
why he is the way that he is as an adult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh.
So anyways, yeah. So those were all my times that I got yelled at.
Have you, after COVID, I feel like that the market as a whole, as far as retail goes, has been a little bit more on edge. Do you feel like that too?
Yeah. I feel like this year, 2022, was like, because if you think about it, it was 2 years after COVID-ish. I think some people were still in denial, like buyers, like, thinking that like they had the upper hand when, especially if they hadn't purchased anything or, you know, recently. And so they just, I don't know, there was a lot of bad behavior, I would say, you know, and then they would end up treating us badly, you know?
Yeah. It seems like there's a lot of transference, like whether it happens, like the stories that you're talking about seem like that they're not even related to you.
No,
like it's just a matter of fact that something happened.
Happened, but then they blame me because it's like I'm the closest target, you know?
Yeah.
Now onto the positive things. We finished our building. So remember how like I bought the building next door and all that. And so we finished our building and we moved in actually mid-year in 2022.
Oh, nice.
Yep. And so we got it furnished. And I do have a funny story. So we got the building furnished. But then I waited until like later in the summer or early fall to purchase some of the larger pieces. One of the larger pieces that I purchased was a blue couch. Okay. Massive couch. Okay. And I was a dum-dum. And when I ordered it, like it said something like white glove service, right? And I mean, there was a charge for it. And both Jessica and I were like, we don't need that. Why would we pay, extra number of dollars, to have that, right? We don't need white glove service. Idiots, okay?
Yeah.
So what that meant is because I didn't pay for white glove service, guess where they dumped the couch?
In the front? On the driveway?
The lawn.
On the lawn?
On the lawn.
Okay.
Yeah, it gets better. So then we had to carry the couch.
Oh, God.
Not only from the lawn, okay, into the building, right? The couch is supposed to go upstairs.
Oh, no.
I'm the freaking idiot. Like, I should have had it delivered because they would have unpackaged it, like, taken it all upstairs, right? Okay. And the staircase, if you've been at my building, it's not a straight shot up. Like, there's a curve, okay? I'm the idiot that decided, hey, we can do this. Just two of us, okay? Me and I don't know if it was Jessica or somebody else. And I was like, we'll just take the couch. Well, no big deal. We'll just take the couch upstairs, right? Without my husband's help, okay? Mind you, the beginning of the day. And you know that Friends episode?
Yeah, where pivot, where he's like, pivot,
it's like,
pivot.
Yeah. I wish somebody was videotaping it because that is literally what was going on. I was at the bottom and Jessica and one other, I think Christina were at the top. And I was like, oh gosh. The couch comes crashing down.
No.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
gosh.
There's still like a small dent in the ceiling. Like where the
I'm going to have to look for that next time we go in there. Yeah.
The couch was mostly unscathed. There was only like a little bit of like the material. You can't even hardly tell. But I was like, oh no, Alice, this is why you should not. You should get the white glove service.
Get the white glove. I tried that numerous times. I'm like, okay, never. Like
never. Yeah.
Because then, yeah. So.
Because it never goes as smooth as you think it's gonna go.
Never.
Like it always just, yeah. And then I have another funny story. A client of mine, a buyer, he's transferring from I think Seattle area. Okay. First time in Naperville, downtown Naperville. Okay. And I think he had gone to lunch before some showings. Right. And, this is the summertime. So they were doing road work, construction work, like they had cones and everything. Okay. And he is the nicest, funniest guy. And I guess he just wasn't paying attention while he was walking.
Oh, no.
He steps and almost basically falls into a manhole.
A manhole.
Yes. Falls in. Okay.
Jeez.
Loses his shoe. Okay. And this is all before he meets me. Okay. We've never met. Okay. Like yet. Okay. So then loses his shoe. And he's like looking around and he's like, oh, I have one shoe now. Like, what am I going to, I'm not going to go down there. Right. So luckily a Naperville running company is right there on Jefferson.
Yeah.
Right. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to go in there. Find me
shoes.
A pair of shoes. Right. And so he goes in and they're like, how could we help you? You know, and he's like,
tell me.
I have one shoe.
Yeah.
And so they get him shoes. Right. And there's only one, like, I guess, style and color in his size. Okay. So he shows up. I'm meeting him for the first time. He shows up and I'm like, hi, my name is Alice. And he's like, nice to meet you, blah, blah. And I look down and he's like, oh, I have a story for you. And I was like, yeah, because he was wearing bright purple, like fluorescent, almost purple shoes.
Wow.
And he's like, this is not my normal color.
Just so you know, I thought that was a Seattle thing.
I know. He was just like, I stepped in a manhole and I lost my right shoe just like an hour ago. And I went, what? And he's like, no, it really happened. And then I looked at him and I laughed and I said, welcome to Naperville. Your shoe's still down there.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. That is amazing. What a year. 2022. It starts with yelling and then ends with funny stories.
I mean, like you wouldn't know because that year we did 96 units.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we closed 52.5 million in business.
Beautiful.
And yeah, I mean, it was overall from the outside again, right?
Yeah.
It could be deceiving from the outside looking in, right?
Yeah.
The team was great, we congealed, solid, business wise, numbers wise, we look good, but there's a lot of yelling. Yeah.
I mean, there's something to be said about that. My brother has always said this. He goes, you guys are going to have a hard year, but when you look back at the hard year, you'll see that your W-2s or your income's going to show the hard work. And
Exactly.
I think one of the best things you mentioned was, your activities.
Yeah.
As an agent out there, there's so many stats right now that it's just showing that their agents aren't really doing a lot of business. But the people that are grading themselves on their activities are the ones that are succeeding.
Correct.
So that's the huge takeaway.
Yeah, that's what I always tell my agents on the team, that you can always trace back. Like if you're having a lull in your business, trace back 60 to 90 days from now.
Wow.
What were you doing at that time?
Yep.
And more often than not, they'll look at it and go, oh, yeah, you're right. Like,
yeah,
I wasn't doing much, or I kind of slacked off,
So now it's time to roll up the sleeves, right?
Yep.
Well, what a year. That just shows that you had the numbers speak for themselves, but it was with a lot of pain that went through that. So,
oh, yeah. And grit, like you said.
Yeah, grit and grace. And that's something to be said when it comes to our profession, when it comes to real estate and also the lending world, is that you need to have that.
You do, yeah. And I honestly, I know I've said this a lot, but I really couldn't have done it without my team. Truly, because in those moments where I was getting yelled at and going through hard times, right, I always knew that I had team members who are my friends, really, at the end of the day, that I can count on and talk to and lean on, and they were there for me. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we'll see you in 2023. Have a great day. Thank you so much, Alice.
You're welcome. See you then.